Hello. So I promised us that I was going to make this video on why I would never encourage a Nigerian lady to be married in their 20s. Um, a lot of people have argued with me on this position, but I tell you, I am strongly convinced that a Nigerian lady should not have any business in a man's house in her 20s. And I'm specific here about Nigerian lady. And that is because of the way our environment is. And I'm going to use the example of a graduate because I'm going to use even myself, what I was doing in my 20s, where I was, and all that. So I'm going to use that scenario to explain the things that I'm trying to communicate here. So I remember when I graduated from the university, I was 23 then, and one of my aunts visited us and was asking my mom, when is she? Now she's graduated, so it's time for them to drink my wine. When is she going to bring the man home? And my mom stopped her right there and said, no, I'm not going to allow any of my children, any of my daughters to go into any man's house without a job or without having a business or something they're doing or their own income. Then, as a 23-year-old girl, I wasn't even thinking about those things, thinking about what my mom was thinking about, you know. And that tells you, how the mindset, how so undeveloped that a Nigerian girl child is in their 20s. I had just graduated from the university, and at this time, I didn't even know my left from my right. Yes, I just know that I had a BSc in something, and yes, now I'm home. The next thing for me was to go for my youth service. The next thing after that would be to search for a job. There were so many things about me that I didn't know. And you can imagine having to move into a man's house at that point or at that stage of my life. Because while I was in school, I also saw that a lot of people around that age, were already getting married. They were already having suitors. I remember one of the times I went to a hostel in the University of Enugu, popularly known as Imoke Hall. That hostel is where a lot of the medical students reside. And, there are cars parked there in the evenings, especially around the Christmas time. You see all these guys from abroad, America, Europe, US, UK. They are coming in to check on the girls because they want to marry them off straight from school. And so a lot of people got married that way. And if you look at the statistics of women who end up unhappy in marriages, you and I, if we're being honest with ourselves, we will see that these are ladies who have gone into marriage at that early stage of their lives, because for them there were so many things that they didn't put into consideration before they made a decision of their partner. A lot of them at that time of their lives, they're still being told what to do. It's still about what your parents are still making decisions for you. People are still telling you what to do, because at that age when I graduated from school, my parents still had a lot of say about my life and the things that I was going to be doing. I was still living in their house, of course. And in your 20s in Nigeria, a typical Nigerian girl in their 20s is still living with their parents, is still, being taken care of with their parents, or she's still a responsibility of someone else. There are few people, ladies in their 20s in Nigeria today who have attained the level of, independence. What I mean by independence is people who are able to take care of themselves. They are paying their bills. They are in their accommodation. They have their own income. They're able to survive without a man, without someone paying those bills for them. That's one thing. They're able to make decisions, about their lives. A lot of people, within that age range haven't even been able to understand themselves, because one of the things that I do in my sessions with women, when I'm working, the women I work with, one of the first tasks that I give to them is to conduct a SWOT analysis about themselves. And I find out that a lot of people have never even taken their time to engage in this activity. And that's what I'm saying. So people in their 20s have not even understood anything about themselves, have not taken time to reflect about their lives, about the things that they want for themselves. They haven't even developed anything, any values for their own lives. They have just come out from school, still with their parents, still being told the things they should do. People are still thinking for them. Then these are people you now move into a man's house where another person is going to continue from where their parents stopped, to start thinking for them. So that lady in her 20s has not had that time and opportunity to discover herself, to discover her strengths, her weaknesses, to discover the things that she could do with herself. She has not asked herself certain questions about herself. She hasn't marked the boundaries of her life and come up with ideas about the things that she may want to do with herself. This is a typical um 20-year-old, or yeah, a lady, Nigerian lady in her 20s in Nigeria. This at this stage, at that phase of their lives, they haven't even thought about these things. Because when I interact with a lot of married women, I find out that, because especially the ones that got married in their 20s, they have never had time with themselves. They have never had those opportunities to reflect about their lives, about their presence, about the things that they wanted. So because they instantly jumped into marriage at that stage of their lives, and of course, the people who married them want them to instantly start having children. And I tell you, the moment children come into your matter, that is the end of it. That is the end of it, because you're going to now take that time, the time that you would have used to think about yourself, think about the things that matter to you. What you're going to be doing is to start thinking about those children and everything about those children, thinking about your husband, thinking about your home, thinking about making things in your new home work. And you will not be able to really understand yourself or discover yourself. So what should a lady be doing with herself in her 20s, if you ask me? Those are the years that you are supposed to, firstly, find your independence. If you don't have a job, if you have just graduated from school, that is the time to go and acquire a high paying skill and start earning. The first thing you should do with yourself is to earn, is to make your money, not to look for man. Before you move into a man's house, you need to have your earnings. You need to have a source of income, because many women who didn't do this for themselves, when those relationships, begin to have issues, they are not able to make decisions because they don't have their own finances. So I always advise ladies that the first thing they should do for themselves is to think about their earnings, think about having an income before they even start thinking about a man. Don't ever fall for that trap, of that man who promises you heaven and earth and tells you that he's going to take care of you. Because the day that he's unhappy, the day he becomes unhappy with you, he's going to pull the strings. Men are very good at that. They know how to punish you with their money. They know how to stop the flow of money when they're not happy with you, because especially when they know that you depend on them for that money, and you don't want to find yourself in that situation. So I always advise women to always have their own earnings. So what you should be doing in your 20s is to continue to develop yourself, continue to find your means of income, continue to discover yourself. Very important. Very important, because if you don't even understand yourself, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, in the choosing the right partner, choosing the kind of person you want to work with. That's a time to make friends, meet people, interact with people, make friends. Stop looking for a husband in every friendship that you're making, because that's not what you should be thinking about at that time. Yeah, the husband will come, but focus your time, in developing yourself, in understanding yourself, in attaining your independence, moving yourself from that dependency from your parents, into being able to take care of yourself, being able to pay on bills, being able to organize your life, being able to live on your own, being able to understand, what you want to do with yourself, having that time, of solitude, of you and you alone, where you begin to discover yourselves and the things that work for you and don't work for you. If you haven't defined these things and you move into a man's space, without knowing these things, I tell you, a lot of the ladies who have done this, when I see them, I know, because they are constantly in a state of confusion. They don't know their left from their right. You're talking to them, they're always confused, they're always overwhelmed, because they don't even have time to think for themselves. They're always thinking about the children, they're always thinking about their husband, they have never really understood themselves, they're unhappy, they're stressed, yeah, they're stressed, they're overwhelmed. So their life just revolves around those children. They're always looking for a way to make themselves happy with their children. They just build their lives on their children and on their husband, because on their own, they don't even, they've not had a relationship with themselves. So, in summary, what I'm trying to say is, in your 20s, what you should do with yourself is to have a relationship with yourself, understand yourself, um, understand what makes you you. Conduct a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis about yourself is looking at your strength, looking at your weaknesses, looking at the opportunities, around you, and looking at the threats that you should, pay attention to. That way, you begin to understand the kind of person that you even want to put up with. You understand whether you want to have children or you don't want to have children. You understand that those are the times that you start answering certain questions about yourself. You decide for yourself how many children you want to have, the type of man you want to live with, and so many things about your life. Because if you don't define these things and you quickly run into a man's house in those years, moving from your father's house into a man's house, you're just going to continue to be that bunch, of confusion going nowhere. Because that's what I see when I talk to a lot of women. They're just confused. They're confused because they have never really taken that time to do these things that I'm talking about. Um, yeah, I'm going to stop here for today. I want to read from you. What do you think about women marrying in their 20s? What do you think that women should do in their 20s? What do you think about the things I've said? I'm happy to read from you. I'll see you some other time. Have a good evening. Bye.